Hey, Otabio, how you doing? Nashio, how you doing? Welcome in. Jenny, welcome in. Richard, welcome in. Non-debatable, welcome in. Lions, welcome in. Mittens Day, long time no see. How you been? Long time no see. Welcome back.
Yeah, totally. I just have to have it met over. So, yeah, I know I was in the last one.
Yeah, Mittens Day, yeah. I'm going all right, Mittens Day. Mittens Day, going all right. Going all right. I hope this music doesn't get I hope this music doesn't get me copy claimed, but it might. I've been there. Ghost of Your Fears, welcome in, welcome in. Please hit that like button, everybody. Please hit that like button. Sort of, Ghost. Sort of. Like, here's some information that they gave me. Well, here's some information that they gave everybody so far. So sort of. It looks like they'll be helping the service aides. Based on what I'm reading here, it looks like they'll be largely helping the service aides, the police service aides. They'll be doing scene security, traffic control, assist the prisoner transport center, support the APD drone program, and then support administration. Or also working on criminal cases. Yes, probably both, because the National Guard comes from state money. Army National Guard comes out of state money, so that'll be the state. So therefore, state stolen money is paying for this. I see a handful of demilitarized shirts in here, so this might get colorful. MIC head of National Guard checking bags and whatnot on the subway. Oh wow, that's crazy. Steve, how you doing? National Guard are not supposed to act as police. Possible. Yes, correct, Lindsay. Correct. Yes, I agree. Yes. Please hit that like, everybody. Please hit that like. I really hope this smooth jazz doesn't get me copyright. But I think it might. Steve, this is southeast, I believe. No, northeast. That's true, Millstones. That's true. That is very true. No, Steve. No. Lomas, off of Lomas.
How you doing today?
Steve, off of Lomas. Right, the Lomas where all the car dealerships are, in that area. It's before Wyoming. It's off of Lomas between Louisiana and Wyoming. Dallas. It's off of Dallas Street. It's the Mesa Verde Community Center. Mesa Verde Community Center. The U.S. was never meant to have a national police. If you think about it, the FBI, ATFDA, and all other federal agencies would fall under. That's true, Mitten State. That's true. And Mitten State, the ATF should be a convenience store. Purchase all your alcohol, tobacco, and firearms all in one store. It should not be a government agency. It should be a convenience store. Oh, I know, Ghost. I know. Frank, how you doing? Good to see you. yeah, exactly. An ATF corner store, absolutely. Purchase all your alcohol, tobacco, and firearms on one store. I love that idea. Great idea. It should not be a government agency. From Corners, how you doing? Welcome in. And how you doing, Frank? Good to see you, sir. That's a very good question, Ghost. It's a very good question. I do not know. That's a valid question. exactly, integrity, exactly. The problem is that the last 2 generations or so did not stand the ground against sunscreen. Oh, I know, Mitten said, I know. So now we're being stuck with this crap. The people of Appalachia and other areas fought so hard against the BS. Oh, I know. I know, Mitten said, I know. That's true, Mitten said. That's true. That is so true. We are caving to tyranny, and now we have this. Like people love communism apparently. So that's why we're getting this shit because people love communism. It's fucking stupid. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, ma'am.
No, you're fine.
Everyone, can you hear me okay? Is that okay? Well, thank you for joining us for our second town hall here. We have our National Guard, our Albuquerque Police Department Chief Medina, and Kathy McGill is going to be monitoring some questions later on. But before that, what we're going to do is start with Chief of Staff Mike Hernandez, who's going to share some of the duties of the officers that he's present within, saving the stage for everyone. Presence of the National Guard and within the city of Albuquerque, and addressing your questions and your concerns. We have a great one here, today's leadership that will provide that for you. And I introduce myself, I'm Phil Shea, the Deputy Director for the Office of Equity.
Thank you. Mike Hernandez, Chief of Staff, the Albuquerque Police Department. So thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak. I hope that we're able to pick up some of these fact sheets. There can give some information on some of the things that AP and the National Guard are currently conduct. So one of the key things is there's a lot of misinformation out there. They're going to be doing 3 key things. They're all going to be non-law enforcement roles, which is similar to our police service aid, but they're going to be 3 main things, and that's in order to help with officers responding for calls for service. One of them is going to be scene security. So you'll see that on a lot of incidents, crashes, there's usually officers or there's sometimes police services. And however, they'll be able to take over those roles, one, free up officers, or free up police services to now help with other calls for service. The second one is going to be, they're going to be assisting at the Prisoner Transport Center, where they're going to be assisting the prisoner transport officers with the processing of individuals that have been arrested. And this will free up the PTU officers to conduct other activities within their duties, to free up also manual level, and to free up officers when they're processing the booking process. And the last one is going to be at the Real-Time Crime Center. The Real-Time Crime Center was that they're going to be helping out with
Frank,
our
I did not take it down.
program.
Frank, I did not take it down.
Out at the
I'm saying I agree with you.
So those are some of the 3 key positions that they're going to help the Albuquerque Police Department with. And I just want to give some of that information out because I know that there's some misinformation and we want to get that information out to the public so you guys are aware of it. But now I'll turn it over to Kathy and Chief and General.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine McGill, and I lead the New Mexico Black Leadership Council. We live and work in the International District. And obviously, tonight's issue is very, very important to us to make sure that we have accurate information. And I want to make sure that everyone in the community understands that your voice matters, speaking truth to power matters. And what we'd like to ask is that we have civil discourse tonight. And that you know, your your voice here is welcome. We're gonna allow Chief Medina to make a short presentation, and Major General Aguilar also make a presentation about what to expect. And mostly this is about, being able, and I think one of the great things about being in New Mexico, living in Albuquerque, is you get to be up close and personal with the people who have been chosen or elected to be your leaders. Chief Medina is here today to ask questions. The Major General is here to answer your questions, and is here up close and personal with you. You can say that this is someone that you actually know, but you can see the grocery store that this is, we're all a part of this community. I've lived and worked in Albuquerque since 1984. Really long time, and I've lived in the International District since 1998. This is my home. I care about it. I know that all of you do, and we have a shared responsibility for contributing to public safety. So that's really what we're here tonight to do, is to talk about the National Guard coming to Albuquerque, what they're gonna do, and talking a little bit about how each of you, coming with your lived experiences, all of us have them, how you may feel about it. And I think the goal is to figure out how we do this in a way that's respectful of everyone involved. So
Yes,
that we
beat the
all
nerds,
are
yes.
moving
On his right sleeve, yes, he does.
So with that, I will ask the chief to.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. This is about us working outside the box, about us utilizing the proper resources. When I became chief, I really focused on devoting officers to the tasks that officers have to do. We have a limited number of officers, and I refer to as I need officers to do bag and gun activities. And they need to go out and enforce laws. They need to respond to emergency calls for service. And we've been very successful. We've hired digital forensics experts who were professional staff that took over that task, and it increased our clearance rates and homicide investigations from 50% to over 90%.
If some of you have questions, put them in chat, and I will try to ask the chief for you.
We hired professional staff, once again, non-sworn, who investigated use of force, who worked and cleared up officers from having to do those tasks. But it also brought an outside view. It brought somebody outside of the law enforcement family who is now doing these investigations, because a benefit for us in making sure that we had fair and impartial investigations. We use this concept with the real-time crime center.
Yeah, she wasn't
We
about to
took
say
analysts and the bridge operators that were officers
what are his conscience
for a long time,
scruples
for almost a decade,
against
and we replaced them with professional staff and we got officers out working the streets. Earlier this
I will
year,
ask that part.
the general,
I will ask that.
gave me a phone call and he said, hey, how can we work together? And we thought of a bunch of different ways that we should work together, utilizing the National Guard, who are members of the community, to come in to help us free up officers throughout the city. So one of the
What is the definition of posse comitatus? Can someone look that up for me?
They're actually broken into each area command 7 days a week, all shifts. So they are going to be throughout the city of Albuquerque, and they are going to be assisting us. And like Chief of Staff Hernandez said, they are helping us in non-law enforcement roles, and we're going to utilize them to help us clear officers up so that they can start more quickly responding to calls, and so they could be more proactive in the community. Of course, there is a concentration that will be in
Awesome,
the southeast
awesome.
area, along Central, the southwest, and the valley. It's
I will ask
basically all
that for
the
sure.
corridor that we'll be covering. And when you look at our data and you understand our data, and the argument I hear a lot of times is because you enforce more. The one data point that is not about enforcement are homicides. And you look, the vast majority of our homicides, almost 66%, 60 to 66%, depending on the time of year, are within 1 or 2 blocks.
Thank you, Mid-State, thank you.
So we are devoting resources to somewhere. I don't want my officers out there giving petty traffic citations.
Prophet, welcome in, sir, welcome in.
Community, I don't want them over the police and community, but we do have to devote resources to where we are getting the largest amount of complaints and where we
I
are
agree,
seeing,
I agree.
the largest concentration of crime. So we will continue to work with all the partners. I know other agencies have frequented, East Central. We took out East Central out of there at that time, and we moved them to West Central, so we will continue to work Central Boulevard as a whole. Downtown Central is a big priority of ours on Friday and Saturday nights, and, the rest of Central is always a priority. This is no different than the role that a police service plays, and we're able to utilize them to help clear up our officers and get them to, different locations and assist the public. And you know what? I haven't been afraid as chief to try something outside the box. If it doesn't work, we'll modify it to make it work, and if it still doesn't work, well then, we'll shake hands in the general, we'll say we gave it a great try. But we shouldn't limit our thinking to say, this hasn't been done before in New Mexico, this hasn't been done here, and we should not try it. It's been tried in other communities, it's worked, it's helped, it's supplemented their law enforcement capabilities, and, we are willing to give it a try to see, how it works, and we're monitoring. And one of the positive things that I saw come out from the general was, he immediately said that his people, if there's a complaint against his people, our internal affairs would investigate.
Oh,
our
got
standards,
you,
and they would
okay,
begin to
okay,
find
great,
ways to
okay.
Come out with the discipline if there was something that was done inappropriately. So to me, that was a big step in accountability. The general recommended and said that all his people would be carrying body cameras and record all their interactions, which I thought was also a big step in a positive direction. So there's a lot of things that I think the general was very thoughtful about, and we're very thoughtful about. And we came out with an initial list with a lot of things, but as you heard Staff Hernandez say,
Some people are,
narrowed it
yes.
down to
Some
three
people are.
things that are the easiest and the most feasible, we're going to crawl. And if that works, we get up and walk, we're gonna get up and walk and add some other duties. And at one point in time, run will run. But we're gonna take this in slow steps, make sure we're methodical, and make sure we're doing it in a positive way that works well, not only for law enforcement, but also for the community. And we will continue to move things in a positive direction or make adjustments if necessary.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. So, we've hit kind of the tasks, and the chief has done a good job of summarizing where we're at. So, I think what becomes incredibly important, that we share with you as a community, that I think a lot of people don't understand, is, the name tape on my uniform says U.S. Army. But we're a part of the New Mexico National Guard. As all of the various branches of the military, there's a unique difference. And that is, in my position right now, every National Guardsman that is working in New Mexico, whether training, the normal training we go through, supporting our part-time force or full-time force, and those that are on any kind of duty, whether we were responding to Hermit's Peak Canyon, whether we were substitute teaching, whether we were in Ruidoso during the fires and helping clear debris after that, whether we're in Roswell during floods or northern New Mexico during snowstorms. In all of those, we work for the governor of the state of New Mexico. It is what is unique across the Department of Defense. I don't work in this status for the president, I work for the governor. The governor asked me to sit down and have a conversation with the city and the chief about how can we assist in providing a greater public safety presence. And the easy solution was, what are the things that we can do that will free up the law enforcement officers, the Albuquerque Police Department officers, to do more police work when oftentimes they're tied up on not doing that, right? As you're all aware, sometimes crime scenes can take a significant amount of hours away with officers on a street corner, essentially blocking traffic so that nobody comes into the scene. The intent of this program, especially what we call field operations, is to assign guardsmen to the various area commanders. Under the command of that area commander, tasked by that area commander, to support where we can to free up law enforcement officers either to go back for calls of service, or to be proactive in the community, okay? Whatever location that may be. And so, how do I gauge success from my perspective? Is that I'm freeing police officers to do their work. what's the ultimate outcome? That hopefully will provide a safer environment for the longer term solutions. And we all know that the issues in the community are more than just law enforcement. And we've got to create an environment in which we can have that conversation to go beyond that. And we're open to that conversation. I think there's opportunities to engage the legislature, to engage the governor's office. If you want to bring them to me, I'm happy to have that conversation about what else is there that we can provide under this hopefully increased umbrella of safety in some communities to do that. And then the other thing I'll tell you is, so the Guard is community-based. A little under 40 of the Guardsmen that are on this operation, assigned to the Albuquerque Police Department, are graduates of local area high schools. The vast majority of the Guardsmen that are on this mission live in Albuquerque. This is home. In fact, I've now been a resident in Albuquerque, with the exception of 6 years, since 1990. The first place I lived was in an apartment complex on Central, right next to Louisiana. The first Rex Burger I had was at the old Rex Burgers on that little strip mall, which was fantastic. When I first had it, became a big fan. It's harder to find nowadays. But I'm a member of this community. My wife teaches at a school here. If we can help the community, of course we want to do that. And if this is a way that provides a greater service and a greater umbrella of safety and opportunity to have a larger discussion, then we should have that. Why wouldn't we do that? And I think the other thing is for the community to know that you may not know is the National Guard has been in the community engagement, especially with our youth, for many, many years. For well over 20 years, we won our National Guard Youth Challenge program in Roswell, New Mexico, funded by the Department of Defense as an opportunity for youth who the typical traditional education model isn't working for them and are in danger of dropping out or have dropped out, to come to an environment where they can have discipline, where they can catch up on their academics, where they can do vocational training. And that program has been in the business of changing lives for well over 20 years. In July of this year, we will start the Job Challenge program. Phase 2 at Expo, New Mexico, where we've done a $7 million renovation, mostly funded the Department of Defense. The legislature has been awesome in giving us more funding for it. And that will be an opportunity for kids who graduate from that program to start more intense job training. So if you want to be an electrician, we'll start you an apprenticeship, give you some additional training, and then send you off into the job market doing that work. And by the way, all of those programs absolutely free. And then the last thing that we're doing in the community is last year the governor asked me to do something to engage with middle school kids. It started what we call the Summer Challenge program. Did a pilot program at Jimmy Carter Middle School for 6 weeks. Some academics, literacy, because literacy program was going on. We do physical fitness training. We do hard things. Like we put kids in a place, rappelling off a 50-foot tower, rock climbing, the types of things that cause them to get over their fears and the self-esteem and self-confidence that grows from those types of challenges. All designed to give kids the confidence and the tools that are necessary for them to grow up in an increasingly more difficult environment.
That's called grooming.
That's not just.
That's grooming our children.
That's not
Basic
just,
training.
in Albuquerque, it's across the country, and I will tell you that the intent isn't to recruit. It's to help. So this summer, we will execute 2 more programs. Jimmy Carter, Wilson Middle School, and Van Buren Middle School. All in cooperation with the Public Education Department.
Grooming our children for the
Albuquerque
military.
Police Department, or Albuquerque Police Public Schools. And so, all voluntary.
Pipeline, school to prison pipeline.
And so, that's the type of interaction that we're having in the community. We can get over to other places.
We want to the last, or the very first meeting that we had, we were, trying to figure out like, what's the best way for everybody's voice to be heard. So there was a request that questions be written. Today we want to shift that, and we also wanted to add more time, because we know that 45 minutes was not long enough. And so we have asked the Major General and the Chief to sit for questions coming from all of you. What's my job? As the moderator, my job is to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to be heard. And in so doing, it means that if you're making an outburst or, interrupting other people, that does not come within the tenets of civil discourse. So this is about civil discourse, and silence and civility are not the same thing. I love passion. I'm an extremely passionate person about all these things. And so we love your passion, but your rage is not welcome here. And what we want you to do is ask a question and to be respectful in so doing. So while people are, attempting to ask their questions, we ask that you actively listen and not just to respond, but to have a conversation, and that's what this is about. So with that, I will take the first question. I'm gonna I'll have you come first, and then I'll recognize you second. So what I'd ask for is that you ask your question, and we can read it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do it.
I have a question. Why did we fill out sheets and hand them in earlier if we're?
So you can, I'm gonna open up the floor for people to ask their questions. We will take questions from last time, that you can send up to us, but if there's somebody who wants to talk, we can definitely do that. I'm gonna take this question that I have right now. I'm more concerned about how, I'm not sure who treats the homeless, community. So that is
Apparently these first
not
questions were
a question.
pre-submitted
We
questions
certainly
from
acknowledge
somewhere.
that our unsheltered community is out there and very vulnerable in this situation.
I have a question for the chief. Based on current numbers and call type, do you have an idea of how many calls the National Guard personnel would be involved in on a daily basis?
It varies at times, like right now as we speak, there's a SWAT call that's being activated since about noon, 3 o'clock. And I think we have about 9 officers tied up on perimeter scenes right now. So those 9 officers would be able to be switched up and cover perimeter. Nothing to do with the perimeter
Rami, how you
and
doing?
the resolution of the situation, just blocking the street and everybody, so that nobody goes into the danger area. We've been able to clear those 9 officers. So like for today, it would have been 9 officers that would have been cleared for uniform.
I'm gonna call on this gentleman right here, he has his hand raised.
So, APD is ranked number 1 in terms of police killings per capita in the country. That's a lot of competition in the country. Why should we be using our resources as a community to increase the capacity of a department?
Yes, this is a town hall meeting, yes.
That's my question, thank you.
The Albuquerque Police Department, and I've seen the data, but I've also seen that. I'd like to see where all the paperwork came from, because they capture fatal shootings only in the data. We're not gonna argue about the data. What I am gonna tell you is this: I have been here for almost 30 years, and we just went in full compliance with the Department of Justice. And when you look at how our shootings and our transparency and how we talk about it, and the fact that over 90% of our shootings at this point in time, the individual has been armed with a firearm, and I don't have the exact numbers with me, but somewhere near 58% of the time they actually discharge that firearm against our officer during the interaction which results in an officer-involved shooting. It comes down to, you look, there are a lot of firearms out in the community within the city of Albuquerque and other states.
So you're trying to take our guns away?
Okay, so.
What? Where'd that come from?
So
That came out of
no, really
nowhere.
seriously, we can't do the outbursts. You'll have your opportunity to speak, but I ask that you engage in civil discourse, and that's what we're gonna go with. So I ask for your cooperation. Chief, and then we're gonna go to the next person, so, continue with wrapping up your answer and then we'll go to the next person.
The city of Albuquerque needs enforcement. We need to make this city safer. In the last year, I wanted to see how many kids no longer are with us because of firearm related deaths, because of violence. This is about giving kids in a certain part of town a chance to succeed, to live, and feel safe within their community. And there are a lot of good kids in these parts of town that have the right to have every single violent criminal locked up and in jail so that they could live a good, safe, free, productive life.
All right, I'm gonna go to the next person here. Yes.
Okay, so I've been working with the homeless population for the last 28 years. That's why I'm so concerned, because it just kind of seemed like in the media, it seemed like, you know, it's like it sounded really intimidating to have them in our community, which I didn't know that they lived in our community. And it's like, so what are they gonna do that we as a community are doing and can do without them? That was my only concern. Because I just don't want people abusing the poor people in our community. I realize that.
Okay, so, okay, for everybody, hold on one second. Hold on one second.
That's what $2 million could do.
Yeah, he's got a point, why can't we do it? I mean, Mayor's already doing it.
Give
Close
$2
down
million
three
to
major
them.
parks from the homeless, right? Now they're concentrated in one area. I mean,
Dulce, I think I saw your hand.
I think the mayor's gonna.
So this is a bit of a logistical question. The city has been changing the message quite a lot about what the National Guard will do. I was in a meeting where Michaela Clinton addressed some community members. She gave the whole spiel about, okay, now these are the 3 things that the National Guard will be doing here, just as you had outlined. And then we said, okay, now how will they look? How will we know who they are? And she said, white polo shirts. Didn't know what the insignia would be. Said that the city didn't have the shirts ready when the National Guardsmen arrived, and that's why they were training on the street in uniform, which we have been told would not happen. So, okay, so then we start telling the community members, like Andy, I work with folks who live on the streets, so trying to prepare them, okay, you might see folks here that have white polo shirts and so on. And I wasn't able to be at the last town hall, but my understanding is that it was then said that the guardsmen would be using black polo shirts. So tonight I look at the handout and there's no color. Just saying polo shirts is not good enough. All kinds of people wear all kinds of polo shirts. Could I possibly ask, so I know this is not a question, this is a request, at the next town hall on Thursday, could the National Guardsmen then perhaps arrive in the garb that they would be wearing on the street? So if we can take a photograph of what they look like and that we can then show the folks on the street, you might start seeing these people out. Because people are already so freaked out by everything that's going on, they do deserve some notice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I want to call on, we do next. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted, just so we're clear, I don't know where the white polo shirt came from, okay? I know you told me
Mayor's
you said
office.
it,
Mayor's office.
I've never been tracking that. But, so, it is absolutely, you said, a logistical issue, right? From the time of the emergency order, to ordering all the equipment, to get it here on time, has been quite difficult. And so, the shirts are in, we know what the patches will be. They're
And what
team
colors,
based,
sir?
black and khaki pants. The patches they will wear are being produced and sewn on. And so, if I had one here to show you, I would show it to you. No one's
That would
got it
would be good.
yet. But it's just not ready yet. Trust me, we've all been asking the same question, and it's a production issue.
Let me ask you, when will they be ready and when can we show the public what the uniform looks like?
I think the company is working on them right now, and I won't call them out, so you don't call
It's
it, but
60
they're working on it.
shirts, so it's not that big an order.
It's
So
the-
So,
what
hold
is,
on one second, the message.
It's the patch.
So what we want is.
Albuquerque specifically, goes Albuquerque specifically,
By
yes.
Thursday for the community, if we could have an expected date by which we would have those badges and the shirts. Is that possible?
Yes, and they won't wear badges, it's a patch.
She's with
Whatever.
the,
So what we're saying is
she's
that.
with the chief's
that
office, I
we would,
believe.
by Thursday, on social media, in the next town hall, there would be some, that you'd be able to see it either in person or the actual shirts. I'm gonna call on the gentleman.
Okay, so I guess I'm a little confused on, Chief McKinney, you're saying that the National Guard isn't law enforcement, but I guess my question is, who is giving the orders for the National Guard to go to these crime scenes? Because I'm just confused, if you're responding to crime scenes and helping officers, how is that not law enforcement? If you're getting the instructions from the police? Yeah.
Same with operating drones.
Okay, so we have a question, and the question is it law enforcement, the assistant duties that the National Guard is operating, during this engagement? Chief?
However you want to categorize it, they're no different than what a police service aide does right now. A police service aide is not a sworn law enforcement official. On-scene supervisor will determine, I have an officer blocking the street and we need to get a National Guard individual here to take over that position and send the officer back to service. So, I don't want to get into the specific technicalities of it, but I will tell you, it's no different than a police service aide, and the on-scene supervisor will request the guard over to take over this perimeter position.
I'm gonna go to a question that I had, and then we'll go back to the audience. I see your hand, so I apologize. The National Guard will wear body cameras. Will they be active 100% of on-duty time each day?
So here's how it'll work. One, just to address what you said, we will not be transport unit. There will be assisting the prisoner transport unit, administrative.
Yeah. Keep your story straight. Keep your story straight.
I've never said that.
Okay, hold on, there's a second.
So the other part of it was body cameras. So the body cameras that guardsmen will be wearing are the same body cameras that the Albuquerque Police Department, Public Safety Aides, the officers of Public Safety Aides wear. They will fall into the same policy that the Albuquerque Police Department has for when they're activated, what the retention periods are. In fact, what we had them do is purchase them and set them up exactly identical to how the Albuquerque Police Department.
What is that
Back
policy?
room in the tan shirt.
Yeah. Question,
The question was,
Emily.
100% of the time when you're on duty. And so I'm not sure, you didn't really answer that question. Are they gonna be activated and recording 100% of the time when they're on duty? Seems like a simple question, because I'm not familiar with the policy, so.
The Albuquerque Police Department officers don't wear the body cameras 100%.
Yeah, see, I don't know that. That's why I asked the question.
They're gonna do it mirroring our policy.
Yeah, I don't know what your
Which
policy
mirrors
is.
state law.
Okay.
And so where can we find that? So people wanna know more.
Well, how about you just tell us?
Yeah.
Why do we have to go look it up? Just tell us what the policy is.
And so hold on one second. Hey, so hold on one second. So we can't all talk at the same time. Everybody will have an opportunity to talk. But if you keep interrupting, it's gonna make it longer. So we'll go back to that question. What is the protocol for wearing, or how do you activate body cams? And how does what the National Guard is doing when they are in this engagement comply with that? Chief.
Our policy is, when you have a law enforcement interaction with an individual you're conducting an investigation. Obviously, there are exemptions when your camera doesn't run. Like if you're just walking out of Metro Court and you're flagged down, somebody asks you directions, it's not gonna fall under the policy of us having to run a camera at that point in time. But every time you're dispatch to a call, you basically, an officer has to activate their camera and have the camera on during the interaction, but there are exemptions of when they can not record, as they're on scene. And it has to do with the interactions of what they're doing and who they are, but every time they're with the community in a law enforcement capacity, they run their camera.
And can you tell us where we can go to find out more information?
That SOP
about what the
two-8 is, you can find it online under the Albuquerque Police Department.
SOP 2-8, so we will find out what the protocols are. If people want to go and look to see if there is some more questions that you want to ask, we can ask those questions to be ready
Can we defer that?
on Thursday.
You can defer your officers.
So, hold on one second, I'm gonna go to this person here, and then we can get to your question.
You had mentioned this community member was next earlier.
This is a committee member who's had her hand up.
For much less
You
time.
probably do not remember me, the first time we met was on scene at an officer involved shooting when I was a journalist in 2015. And I am also concerned about having more law enforcement in this community, and I know that you're aware that APD did not ever come into full compliance with the cost consent decree. It ended, and so now you don't have to worry about it, but the department did
That's
not
right.
ever come into full compliance. As public knowledge, you can't deny that, we know. So with more people operating under APD, whether or not you say they're acting as law enforcement or not, with more people under the same department that could never come into compliance with this consent decree, now there's less oversight and more officers. How does that make our community members safer, acknowledging what the Major General said, that we know there are other issues, that crime is not the only issue. There are things that cause crime that we're not addressing. He offered to take our concerns back to the governor. Our community members will tell you, we've taken those concerns to the governor. We know what needs to be done to help our communities, and the communities here are ready to do it. So why are we spending this money? Why are we doing this to bring in national
Jack
guard
off.
officers who do not stop crime? who do not
Albuquerque
prevent
police
crime,
has
who
no
do not make
qualified
our
rating.
community safer when we know what options we have to do just that.
I agree, we need mental health resources, we need substance abuse resources, we need more resources for the unhoused. I know earlier, they brought up how we're going to respect the unhoused and make sure that is addressed. Just a reminder that everybody who's forgotten, I was the deputy chief that made sure every commander spent one Saturday before Gateway had funding, and officers made 300 staff lunches for those unhoused. Every Saturday. And I finished. Are we gonna have this unhoused community members?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, like, is this a continuation?
It's a continuation,
Okay,
so I apologize. But if you have 300 staff members, that's great. But if you have 3,000 unhoused community members on any given day, 300 staff lunches isn't gonna do much for the rest of those people.
And I will get to everyone, and I'm gonna try to take them in the order received. And so I do see your hand, and I will call on you. I'm going here to this person. Oh, yes.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Rothrock, part of the missing and murder. I'm a trafficking survivor. I have been working grassroots from the streets myself. I've been reporting trap houses. I've been calling APD. I've been trying to report a lot of crime. On top of that is that the officers that called about a week ago, 9 calls have been dispatched. APD came to my house because fentanyl was being used on the stairway. And a lot of our neighbors are really concerned that Glen Esperanza apartments. The trap house is just right across the street. Nothing's been done about that. On top of that, I'm doing the work on the war zone too as well. And I guarantee you there's more report that needs to be done. There's even another trafficker in the war zone that needs to be stopped. But every time I get a call or report it, APD comes to me and says, well, we cannot do anything until we see the crime that's being committed. So that brings up more murder rates and people that go missing.
Because you can't buy
And the reason why it's important is
70%.
70% of our people that I've been advocating for are missing on the street with unsheltered relatives. And that's another reason why I come to you. because we're also trying to start an MMIP unit. We found a girl that's been missing for 2 years recently with an officer that was on the street, but we need that communication if we're gonna work together. I'm doing this on a volunteer basis because I experienced this firsthand. Is there any way we could work with you on this and reporting all this to stop all this stuff? I'm only doing this because I'm a single parent. And I'm tired of that now. And I do have his dad that's on the street right now, who uses, but we're not, because of domestic violence, I'm not with him. And to have an officer say that, it's like, well, what happens if something happens to me? Who's gonna take care of my kids? No one's not gonna care. To have an officer say that to you, it's like, well, should I round up and get the gun myself for protection? Because I'm trying to protect my kids. And I have all these these people that come in and out with something, what do you call it? In and out of jail with no accountability. And their excuse is mental health. That's not accountability. They're literally, when I was going through, they literally catered to the perpetrator and not with the victim, such as myself. Imagine if it was your son or daughter going through this stuff. Just think about that.
You know, I do want to address one thing. You know, when I retired from APT in 2014, I went out and I was chief of police at the Pueblo. And when I came back to APT, I wanted to give back to the tribal community. And I developed a monthly meeting with all tribal chiefs that are offered statewide. And we have the vast majority of tribal chiefs attend the meeting. I think it's tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We actually worked really hard on missing, murdered, indigenous women. And we actually have 2 officers flown to Washington, D.C. to be given an award by the previous administration for their hard work. So we're all about the partnership with that. We've done extensive work with all tribal entities. We provide resources to house during their feast days. We provided to send, Henness possibly during their feast days. So we have a good, strong relationship with all the tribal communities. And when we're done here, I agree with you, absolutely. And that is, you're giving me the exact reason why I'm trying to treat officers up. You live here, you see it firsthand, you experience it in a way that a lot of people in this room may not experience it. You see the effects of crime and the fear that you live in. And that is why we're trying to do everything we can to clear up officers. And Chief of Staff Fernandez will talk to you after this. We will work, we will figure out what this drug house is, and I will get that, make a priority for narcotics over the next few weeks, but we are here to help every way we can, and this is exactly why we're doing it. For the people who live and suffer each and every day deserve to have a safe community.
Yes. Thank you for finally seeing the question. So, at the first town hall, Major General, you stated that the National Guardsmen who get deployed to the streets will be wearing uniforms. And should a community member experience a violation of some sort, that they can report that incident and the individual, the National Guards person, to ATP. If they're wearing polo shirts and they're not wearing the PDU uniforms that we see in here, how is the community member supposed to identify that person? I spent 14 years in the military and 3 deployments to Iraq. I know you believe what you are saying. I know you believe it. I believed it for 14 years. The fact is that there are community members who truly, especially what this woman just stated about her family and everyone else and everyone who lives within and in the international district, who are subject to violence every day, to see militarized individuals on the streets. I know what that terror brings to people. I was a perpetrator of that. So here I am, sitting here, listening to the words. That's why I screamed and I yelled, grooming, because it is. And I'm shaking as a result of it, because to me, my lifelong journey is about rehumanizing myself as a result of the terror and the violence that I enacted on individuals, black and brown. And here we are, black and brown and indigenous,
unsheltered, poor individuals working every single day. So for me to ask this question, so if a person who experiences a violation, much less the fact that we have deployed troops on the streets is a violation, how are they supposed to identify a National Guard person? If they're not wearing their rank, their name. And then to know and hear that EPD will do the initial investigation, dependent upon that investigation, then it gets referred to UCMJ. We know how that works. How can this be true? How can these words be true? And all I can think is that residents and community want to just basically be treated as human beings. Community is not stupid. Community is not stupid.
Are you ready for my answer? So, one, nobody said they wouldn't have identifiers in their names, so. It's a different uniform, which will be identified in the guard. What we thought was incredibly important is that the work that guardsmen are doing in support of the Albuquerque Police Department be under the same policy and process that is transparent to the community that they're accustomed to. So if there is a
And we're
complaint,
telling you AGD's policies aren't
Okay, we can
transparent.
stop making outbursts, let him finish.
if there is a complaint,
And I'll call.
you can go to the Albuquerque Police Department, commander on scene, supervisor, you can go that route. If someone in the community wants to, personally reach out to me and say, hey, this is what I saw, we'll gladly do that too, but what we wanted to make sure is that the process by
That's
which it
incorrect.
happens,
That's incorrect.
we investigate allegations of wrongdoing, are done in the same manner as they are with the city of Albuquerque, because I thought that was important to me. But they will be clearly identifiable. They've gone through the same similar types of training, and so I think that's the answer. Here's the other thing that I think that I want to make sure we understand is the National Guard are not answering calls for service. They're assigned in that particular area command in response to those things that we can free up officers for. And so you're likely not to see them engaging with the in-house community unless they happen to interact while they're holding the scene. So we're not going to send them out to the community alone to have some interaction or answer a call for service. And so for the most part, it would be limited. In fact, you will likely have, depending on the day and time of day, maybe 6 officers in field ops, assisting the area command, unless there's a reason to have more that we can forecast. The rest will be at the real-time crime center, where you typically would not have interaction with the public. The same with the prisoner transport unit, with the exception of those that have been arrested. And they'll just be taking property and helping do administrative work that officers sometimes are saddled with doing, and it slows them down from going back out in the street.
Will they have names? Will their names be on the polo shirts? Will their rank be on the polo shirts?
All right, and so I think we said by Thursday, we would have an opportunity to see what the patch looks like, what the shirt looks like, and what their name tag looks like. Also, I want to just, remind people that we can go to the SOP 2-8, I think, to look at what the protocols are for body cameras when they're on, what exceptions there are to it, so that if you have more questions about it, you can come back with that information and ask them on next Thursday. You had a question about it.
Yeah, can we get further footage from the guards' cameras?
Yes, in fact, they'll be housed in the same servers and the same methodology. And so if you were gonna IPRA this crime scene for all the video footage, and if there was a guardsman there and there's footage available, then that's what you would get.
And for everybody's knowledge, ICRA is the Inspection of Public Records Act, which the government is beholden to. If something happens, then it's discoverable.
It is the Mexico version of FOIA.
So, I think we had a question here from the representative. Representative Samuel.
I just want to say thank you for this town hall and allowing everyone to speak and say what's on their mind and ask questions.
Thank Thank you, Mr. $2. Thank you. Much appreciate your review. Thank you.
Or even if they're there just as support.
I was a teacher here at that here in the international district, for.
Thank you, review. Thank you.
In 6 years, I had 5 boys murder people, so I know how dangerous it is. I had students who wouldn't go outside because it was too dangerous to be outside. They'd eat their lunch, they'd come into classroom. I know how dangerous it is here. I've heard from parents, grandparents, students. So they're here to help us. That's why they're here. We are short, what is the count there? How short are you as far as?
We have about 890, deployed right now, with 65 and change, about 955-ish, and about, we're getting ready to hire an additional 30 next to academy classes, so we're short because we have a lot of people in training, but we're making our way towards the 1,000 miles, which is a benchmark for us.
I also believe if we didn't have speeding, if we didn't have people selling drugs, if we didn't have, murders, we wouldn't need the police, we wouldn't need as many, but we do. We have it every single day. We had 2 kids bring guns to school last week. We have to stop this, and it takes parents, and it takes community, and it takes the support of police, and they are there to help us. They are there to take care of us, and they are there, and I thank God, as covered without you. Thank you.
Very much. I'm gonna go all the way to the back of the room. I'm sorry, I think I saw your.
That's all right. Question. Them national.
Hold on a second, I'm talking about way in the back.
Oh, way in the back. Sorry.
Right here?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Sorry if you covered this, but I really need some help understanding it. So October 31st, Donald Trump flies here, talks about there's an invasion of fentanyl and crime, and pledges that if he gets elected, that he's going to clean that up. He gets elected. Before he's in office, he pledges to send ICE to save the city from an invasion of fentanyl and crime and the migrants bringing them here. He pledges mass ICE detentions, including a plan to call up the National Guard under Title 10, under national emergency, to send to sanctuary cities to assist ICE on the premise that we are being invaded, and specifically announcing fentanyl and crime as being the motivation for invoking Title 10 to send the National Guard to sanctuary cities. Governor Lujan Grisham pledges to resist. Tim Keller pledges to resist. We had city councilors speak up on it and say, no way in hell that's going to happen. We would expect mass protests if that were to happen. I'd be out on the street protesting too, is what the councilors said. So he gets elected, he gets in, and he's doing everything he pledged he would, including ignoring judicial bars. He's arresting judges. He's doing everything he said he would. So now, and then we have the Department of Interior handed over like 400 square miles of the southern New Mexico border to the U.S. Army. The U.S. Army is to the south of us. And now the National Guard is being invited in and set up here under the premise of helping Albuquerque manage its fentanyl and crime problem. Help me understand, what reassurances can you provide that the National Guard, currently being called in under Title 32, or I don't remember the exact number, under state purview, what reassurances can you give me that Donald Trump is not going to take the already established National Guard presence here and all the logistics we're setting up and the training we're doing and the community, whatever, and people going out and understanding the streets and the fentanyl crisis and the crime and the ICE is working with APD and all of that. Help me understand. What is preventing Donald Trump, after all the National Guard is here set up, to do exactly what he promised to do out by the airport October 31st? Invoking Title 10 and using the U.S. National Guard to clean up the invasion of fentanyl and migrants.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Chief first and then Major down.
First of all, the Albuquerque Police Department doesn't work with ICE. It's well publicly known that I think Washington D.C. is President and to push back and say that local law enforcement should not be used as a tool for ICE agents. If anybody can give me the specifics, I will investigate any who's alleged to have worked with ICE. I've gotten complaints for years, we never substantiated one. So it is law in the city of Albuquerque, it's supported by the mayor, it's supported by me, that we will not work with ICE agents, period. And that's pretty over the
Yeah.
National Guard.
So it's, what you asked is complex, I'll try not to, like, get overly complex with how the laws work. So, could the president activate the entirety of the Guard in the right situations and federalize them? Yes. Would they have the authorities that they have in this mission, assisting the Albuquerque Police Department? No. It can't work that way. The authority under which we work right now, all the Guard is under Title 32, but there's really state active duty under emergency law enacted by the governor, and at the request of the city of Albuquerque and the Albuquerque Police Department. Nobody on this mission works for the president, answers to the president. One of the reasons why I've been very clear about trying to reinforce this is the Guard's not taking ownership of a mission or of tasks for the Albuquerque Police Department as an organization. I'm providing the essentially workforce that's trained to support the Albuquerque Police Department and their everyday interactions and what tasks they're asked to do. Of the three that we talked about, will be directed by, supervised by, and observed by somebody in the chain of command and supervisory role of the Albuquerque Police Department. And so, no leader in the National Guard will be able to say, no, we want to do something different. It's under the direct supervision of that area commander that they will operate. And so, there isn't a mechanism in place for what you're asking to happen. Though certainly, I'm not going to tell you that the president couldn't declare an emergency. Understand this: there are limitations on the ability for what Title 10 can do under federal law related to law enforcement activity, without invoking the Insurrection Act, which has not been invoked. But there's no reporting requirements. The drone support that we're offering are city drones, city policy and procedure. We're merely operating them for them. And so that's where we are.
As far as I'm concerned, you didn't answer the question. Your reassurances are all predicated on reassurances that Donald Trump, who you admit could do the thing that I asked, could he do the thing he promised he would do? And your reassurance is currently, under the current things, as we're currently doing it, of course that wouldn't happen. And my thought is like, well, that's so divorced from reality of what we're worried about, what I'm asking about, what we're dealing with at a national scale.
Well, I mean, I'm giving it to you as straight as I can, but at the end of the day, my point is that the assist to the Albuquerque Police Department, those soldiers that are helping the Albuquerque Police Department, the city of Albuquerque, the president can't take them over and say, okay, now you work for me, and still operate in the same capacity. That I can assure you can't happen.
No, you just be operating for the president.
You're telling me Donald Trump is not going to use
Hold
troops?
on.
Please, give me a reassurance that actually works.
Let me just clarify. I want to categorize. We have about, I think, maybe 20 minutes left. I think that what you've asked is important. And what we need to figure out is, and I'm going to try to get to maybe an answer for your question. My understanding is that the city of Albuquerque, by law, may not work with ICE. Please tell us where that is and how folks might go and find it.
If the city ordinance enacted by the city of Albuquerque, signed by the mayor, we're an immigrant friendly city. We do not ask status, we believe in victims. Victims have rights. We're gonna deter victims from reporting themselves as victims if they're afraid of being deported. We do not believe in that philosophy. We will not support, anything that requires us to simply work with ICE on immigration, related issues only. We work criminal, yes, if somebody's a drug dealer in HSI, which is another substance, has an active investigation on somebody over drugs, yes, of course, we would assist in a criminal investigation, but simply administrative investigations or deportation issues, states don't even have the authority to do it. I know they say everything they want to say at the DC level, they have what they say they're gonna do, but even other federal law enforcement agencies just recently are being given certain duties that they can do some sort of level, but local law enforcement agencies in Albuquerque, we can't enforce immigration laws, those are federal laws. We don't have the ability. We don't present cases to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Those cases are presented by federal entities, so there's city ordinance that we can't ask people, their immigration status, we will not share that with ICE. We follow what we're required to do, because it's the right thing for victims, and we will continue that practice. It's been challenged. I know city council voted on this last year, and it got upheld. So we will continue that practice, because it is city ordinance, it's the right thing to do.
So I would ask if we could get the ordinance number, so that we could post that online for people to have that. We could probably get it tonight if, someone from the city office could tell us what that is, we'll announce it. Maybe General?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm putting it as simply as I can from that perspective. Like, so the guard serves the state or it serves the federal government? At any given time, you can't serve both.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one or the other. My guardsmen, they're at Fort Bliss right now, about to deploy to Africa, are federalized members of the Army for that period of time. They answer to the Federal Army chain of command, they work for the president. When they return from that deployment, they will revert back to the status of Title 32 under the control of the government. You can't do both at the same time. And so the reason why I say that's nuanced and it matters is if the guard were federalized, all of it, in New Mexico, I don't think it's gonna happen, but if it were, okay, one, they would no longer work for me. I'm employed in the state of New Mexico. The agreement that is signed with the governor and the Department of Military Affairs, which is a state agency, which I run, would be null and void. We wouldn't be able to operate the same way because they would be federal soldiers. And so there would be a definite line that has now been drawn. If they work with federal soldiers work with somebody, it would be somebody other than the Albuquerque Police Department. And might it be the same body? Yes, depending on the status, but they can't do both. We could not work with the Albuquerque Police Department in this agreement and be federalized soldiers reporting to the federal government.
I'm going to, right here, I have people who haven't had a chance to answer questions. I have the gentleman here, the gentleman over here, then I'll go to the back, and then to you, and that's going to be all of our questions for tonight. I have two questions that were handed to me that I want to answer, but we're going to start with you.
My name is Jason. I'm with the Department of Socialism and Immigration, and many members that we've been speaking with have said that this is making things more unsafe than safe. We have seen our recent press release or statement on this. Don't support this at all. And I'm concerned that APD, the governor, and everyone else involved don't have a proper understanding of the root causes of what you all see as the crime in the city. This is an issue of poverty, which requires an economic and social solution, not more policing. So I'm wondering, what do you all see as sort of the root cause of people being on the streets and this crime that you're seeing? Where's your guys' understanding of where
This
that
government
comes from,
taxing
and
people
why
out of their
is the solution
homes.
actually addressing that versus things like funding social services? You mentioned earlier that we could try.
Okay, that's two questions. Let's answer those. All right, so let's do that.
Quick statement.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned that we try to wrap things and we got to do new things, and I agree. So this is something that has been pushed by Joe Biden since the 90s. This is more policing, stuff on crime. This has not worked, this is not new. Something new would be like pushing for rent control, pushing for, school funding for healthcare for all. This is not a solution, and I don't think
What the hell is this communist bullshit? Oh.
You know, unfortunately, we don't have all the resources for substance abuse. Talk to the courts. They don't have any places to send people. You know, it's sad that our courts, our criminal justice system will release somebody under a mental health crisis to live in the streets of Albuquerque. That's not humane. We don't have the resources, we simply don't. But I can promise you this, if you let me finish, I'm getting there. We need mental health resources. We need substance abuse resources. I have drug addicts in my own family. I know how hard it is to get them resources. I know how hard it is to get them help. I have individuals in mental health issues. I don't come from a perfect family, but I can tell you the resources out there. The chief of police can't find relatives resources when they need them. And you're right, crime is related to poverty. I can't fix poverty, but I can tell you this much. Every time we succeed one kid to feel safe to go to school, and you heard it from a teacher, somebody who's in the classroom every day. You heard it from somebody who actually lives here. How many people actually live between Louisiana and Wyoming? Look at that. No, let's note that. 4 people. 5. She lives in fear. She lives in fear every day while we go home to our safety. You know what? Every time we're able to get a kid to safely go to school, it increases their ability to graduate. That piece of paper enables them to get a better job, to go to college, to succeed. I'm a first-generation college kid. Nobody in my family ever went to college or graduated from college. I know what battles are. I know what it's like to be a man of color, because I look when I became chief of police, 133 years of chief history, and only like 15 had a man of color as the chief before me. I look at the attacks I've had from the media, so I'm not coming from somewhere that I haven't experienced and I've not lived. You know what? People need resources. People need help. These kids deserve to go to school, get educated, and start to move forward and have a shot at life. I worked some of the toughest parts of town. My first 14 years were on graveyard on patrol for the rank of lieutenant. I saw plenty of kids lose their life. I saw plenty of kids lose their future over one mistake because of the environment that they grew up in. So you know what? If this operation helps us feel kids safe, one kid to go to school and get a high school diploma and go on to get a college education, I'm all for it. But you're absolutely right. Poverty does lead to crime, but we have to do something. And my part of this puzzle is I want to make it a safe environment where kids can flourish and succeed.
We're gonna go here and then to the back room.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sue. My son is incarcerated, for everybody that wants to know. The police came to my house a couple years ago to get him. They put tear gas. They did about $40,000 worth of damage to my home. But you know why? Because my son was not doing right. He was stealing. He was holding up people. He was fighting with the police. Do you think I raised my child like that? No. Do you think I want that in my family? No. I've been in these streets for almost 12 years. I had my son in them and his mother in them. His mother's still in the streets. I still go out daily. I feed. I give water in the summer. I pray with them. I don't see none of you in the streets when I'm in there.
I'm there.
Down the street.
Don't say not everybody's there.
Yeah.
I'm there.
Yeah, you are.
You got community that's there.
Yep, I know.
Everybody, we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop. So, not passion, not attacks against people.
So if we want to uplift our community, we have a walking school bus over here. The kids can't even walk to school because the addicts are yelling at them. They're walking over needles. Well, myself, I'm tired of that. My son is an addict. My nephews. I have more family members out here in the streets than I do in homes. Do you think I like that? No, I don't. We blame it on mental health. We blame it on, no. My child knows better. My child knows better. He was raised better. He was raised in a middle-class family. He was raised on the East Coast, around Navy. I mean, he knows better. So when y'all are laughing at me, I don't really see you all doing uplifting our communities. You're downing our chief. You're downing the general.
No personal attack.
Okay.
And so we just don't need that, and I think everybody has talent.
I haven't seen her in
Right,
the
right.
Everybody has
I
talent.
agree.
Take a shot, one give me. Thank you, Ms. Lawrence.
I want to call on, gentlemen all the way in the back wall. You
Him?
had questions earlier.
Me or him?
I think in the key.
Well, you called on the man with the tan shirt, and then you've passed him up, I don't know how many times. So I'm over here to say, loud and clear, that it should be his turn. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. What I was trying to do.
Say that, Paula.
What I was trying to do is make sure that people who haven't had a chance to ask a question could. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask, you can do so. Otherwise, I will go to this gentleman as I said that I would do. So do you have a question?
Are you talking to me?
I think so.
Okay, well, I'm going after him because he's been holding his hand, I don't know how long, but I will have my say afterwards too. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so my question is, them being National Guard notwithstanding, how is this not in violation? How is this not in violation of posse comitatus unless martial law has been declared?
Say that.
Posse comitatus doesn't apply to Title 32 national.
You guys are still part of the Army. You're still part of the armed services. Posse comitatus does apply. So how is this not a violation of that?
So we have a legal disagreement. One of the reasons why I said there's a difference in authorities is posse comitatus is a federal law that says federal troops cannot do domestic law enforcement. National Guard is not federal troops. Unless you're federalized, which is why the difference is.
Which could happen
Title
any
30,
time.
it could, but it's not. And like I said, you can only be well, no, I mean, I think it's an important distinction. You can only be under one authority at a given time.
You can only be under one sword of Damocles at a single time.
Okay, so Title 32, under the direction of the governor, posse comitatus does not apply.
Okay.
But having said that, we're not executing law enforcement authorities and powers. We're assisting with non-law enforcement, which is not to say that we're not assisting a law enforcement agency with administration. And so, even if it did apply, it wouldn't be a violation, but it doesn't.
Yes, sir.
All right, so.
Thank you, sir, by the way.
Do you have a question in the back?
Yes, my name is Paula Arrieta. I've lived here for 11 years. I also walk the streets cop watching. I've never had any violence come upon me or anything. The only problem an issue I've had is with police threatening to arrest me. That's the one, okay? The next thing I want to say is, how many of these did you pass out to the clinics, to the methadone clinics, or to the homeless? I want to know how many of these things did you guys notify them and let them know?
Say that.
That they were going to be okay. Because they're the ones that are in fear.
Say that.
Okay? Those are the ones that are in fear that we've got the National Guard. Do you see any of them here? No, you don't see any of them here. Why? Because they're scared. You know how I know they're scared? Because I give rides to the methadone clinic. I would like to know if you guys have ever thought of the impact of some kind of impact study as to the last few years the governor has decided to send all kinds of police to my community where I live without some kind of impact study. Impact study on how many people don't want to go to the methadone clinic anymore. How many people don't want to get treatment.
Because they're being harassed all the time by the police every time they want to get on the bus or they want to walk down the street. They're calling Paula and asking Paula, hey, look, we're kind of scared. I have to reassure them and tell them, don't be scared, I'm here. So I'm here to talk for them. You have any answers? How many of these flyers did you take to the methadone clinics? How many flyers did you pass out to the homeless? Before you decide to send fear, more fear, and you can tell the governor I said that. First of all, we started with COVID, and now we got this.
And it's a fake emergency.
I don't see the emergency. Like I said, I go out there almost pretty much any night I want. Handicapped, disabled, with oxygen, and I'm never harmed.
Ever. I've never been harmed.
But we're treating my people out there, and I say my people, I've been unhoused myself 6 times in my lifetime. I'm housed now, and I'm not in jail, I'm not in prison, I haven't killed nobody, I haven't murdered nobody. I'm also taking a medication, only I get a legal medication. But yeah, I'm your opiate user too. How do you like that one?
So stop calling people drug addicts.
Yeah, please,
Stop it.
Please, they're human beings. Every single person out there has a mental health issue. I don't care what you
can't
guys
live
have
under
to say about
capitalism
it.
and not
I
have
know
one.
they do.
I want
Yeah,
to thank you
misunderstanding
for
capitalism.
sharing, and I think it's a valid point that these flyers can get around to all of the methadone clinics, all of the.
And you never let my community know, so I had to come in and let you know.
Right, thank you very much, I appreciate it. And so when these fact sheets out, I think that they will be revised and updated with new information. Does anybody find that ordinance number for me? If you haven't, I'm gonna end on these 2 questions. And then, did you have a question?
I was curious, what is the exit strategy and like how long is the actual duration?
Yeah, so, here's kind of like where we are is,
His question
when we
is,
started
what is the exit
talking
strategy?
about how can we free up law enforcement officers, whether you agree with it or not, but how do we free up law enforcement officers after these questions? What the answer, as I spoke to other police department, the retired APD guys, was, hey, look, sometimes these operations are like 30 days or 2 weeks, and the criminal element, those that are profiting on a lot of people that are on the streets, would just essentially hide for a little while because they knew they could outlast it. And so the intent was to create whatever presence we could increase, one that was persistent and we could keep up for about 6 months. Now, so that's kind of what we set out there as a loose method for.
6 months.
I think there's a continuous reevaluation of the tasks we're doing. Are they effective? Are we seeing the results that we thought we would see? Is there something else that can be done?
6 months.
Is there any opportunities to partner somewhere else that we can get agreement to partner with that would help with some of the other issues that are not law enforcement related? I think we're open to all of those.
So if it comes back in 3 months that, hey, this actually isn't helping, $2 million would go better towards adding affordable housing, then the guard will.
Taxpayers, John, taxpayers.
That's not my call. I think that is an evaluation for the Albuquerque Police Department, the mayor and the governor. Certainly we'll give we'll see those metrics.
So then the short answer is indefinite until the Albuquerque Police Department and the governor's office agree that it's no longer needed.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
I don't think shit. They're about to be that's another question.
So,
that I think
basically, they're gonna be a permanent part of the police force
And I want to end with these
until
questions, I think,
whenever.
that are really what's on the hearts and minds of a lot of community members. And so I want to end with these 2. How did 1.5 to $2 million become available in such a short time frame for this occupation/operation and not housing? And the last question is, please explain why OEI is the hosting department, National Guard, for the National Guard, and what I thought OEI stands for, don't fight match. So I think if you want to end on like where the money come from and why, who's doing it. And I don't know if we have someone from OEI who wants to help address that. And about the money, where does it come from? It's a good question, and I hope that this is not a question of not giving money to housing. I know that there was $120 million appropriated in this upcoming session. We need $110 million, I'm sorry. What we need for community to do is to show up and say we want a valid RFP process for that $110 million that's coming out of the state legislature, for people to show up, to come to city council, to look at that legislation at the state legislative body, to talk about how we're going to make sure that that money gets used for the most vulnerable people in our community. With that, I'm going to have Director Jody Lyra from the Office of Equity and Inclusion from the City of Albuquerque have the last word. I will tell you that we do have another meeting in this space.
We really need an inclusion office for it. Don't waste of fucking money.
Conversation to have. All the folks that are here that make comments, that make statements, that ask questions. I don't know that anyone actually 100% agrees and has the same set of values or mindset on this. We're all trying to learn this together. And so, as the Director of the Office of Equity and Inclusion, this is absolutely the space that we need to be in. This is a community issue. This is an issue that affects definitely the people who are the most marginalized historically. And so, as our office, our responsibility.
This stream will stay public. This stream will stay public.
Have that same level of connection to Chief and to Major General, to have the opportunity to stand and very boldly and very freely state their question and make their voice heard. And so we feel very honored that you came today, that you trusted us enough to bring your questions and to speak from your hearts and to present your perspectives. Some of those things are very vulnerable, and I appreciate you all doing that. But this conversation continues, and we hope to continue to be in the space to be able to uplift your voices. So thank you for being here tonight, and if you can come back on Thursday, we'll have another one Thursday.
Can I possibly ask a follow-up question, if you don't mind? Because equity and inclusion is also sort of bringing all the people together. And then Paula's question does apply. Did you reach out to the folks on the street and the folks at the methadone clinics?
Yeah, so we have these three that we have right now, these three first convenings. We wanted to hurry up and get these out in mass productions because we know you all are folks that touch those communities very frequently. You're the trusted messengers. I don't know those people, but you all do. And so if you understand what's happening, when we go to them, they can have that reinforced by you.
So when will you have the meetings with the folks outside?
In June.
That's a little bit late, because won't the guards already be on the street and more?
So I'm gonna do that question to those folks, but we are trying to plan in a way that's safe.
But you see what I'm saying?
Right, no, I see what you're saying, but we want this to be safe and to be useful for everyone.
All right, and with that, that ends our meeting today. Again, you're welcome to come back, bring friends, and let's continue talking.
Same place, ma'am?
Same place.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Chad. All right. I'll be back.
Give me 1 second, get your attention.
Yeah, you see it, right?
1 second, get your attention. The ordinance number is R18-7.
The answer.
I'll be back again on Thursday for the. I'll be back again on Thursday, catching the next one. So thank y'all for hanging out. Thank you everyone for hanging out. I'll see you guys. Hopefully I'll see you guys on Thursday for the next one. Take care, everybody. If you like this type of content, hit that subscribe. Thank you, everybody.